Good morning. Good morning again, everybody. I'm Keith Motley, Chancellor here at the University of Massachusetts Boston, and thank you for bringing all this sunshine today. Now, when you walked on this campus today, someone talked about its beauty, but I hope you noticed that there was a beautiful walk from that long-away parking space that you had as well. We brought the sunshine so that that would work. I'm so privileged as Chancellor at the University here today to welcome you on behalf of not only all of our colleagues here, but on behalf of my partner in all this, our President, Bob Corrett, who's here with us in the front row. Bob. Welcome to our Governor's Education Summit. I'd like to take a moment also to recognize Secretary of Education Paul Reville, our Lieutenant Governor, Tim Murray, and of course our great Governor, Patrick, who's here with us today. Now, Governor, please know that we're always honored to have you on campus, but particularly when you have all of my friends here with you as well. When you come, you sort of bring a crowd. And we're so glad that this beautiful campus setting is the one that you're using today to announce your educational strategy for the next several years. And all of us here are looking forward to continuing our relationship as we work together to improve education with you on this journey. It's been a wonderful journey. We're so grateful for your support of public higher education and education in general. And so, Governor Patrick, you're a friend. You're someone who we can rely on, a supporter of this state's public institutions. And so you know that you're welcome on this campus anytime, over and over and over again. And so are all of you. And so without further ado, I hope that today's conversation is one that we all can engage in and move your agenda forward, because it's our agenda. And so thank you for being here today, all of you. I look forward to working with you to help move this agenda forward. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, friends and colleagues. It's a thrill to have you all back together again and on this auspicious occasion, this historic gathering, and it's a great treat for me in particular to look out and see so many friends and supporters, to see, in effect, our field. You know, 3.5 years ago, the governor brought together the various subsectors in education into one unified organization called the Executive Office of Education, and gave me the honor of serving to lead that department. And I only do so in collaboration and partnership with so many of you in the audience today. And so I want to thank you for all the work you do, our presidents, our trustees, our school committee members, our superintendents, our unions, our legislators who work with us, all of you who make possible the extraordinary achievements that we regularly celebrate in Massachusetts public education. We've achieved an enormous amount, and as you will see soon, we're here today not just to celebrate those achievements, but to talk about how we move forward. But it is important that we take a moment to celebrate the achievement and acknowledge especially your role in making that happen, and to say thank you. In particular, I want to acknowledge those who I work most closely with, because I have the honor of serving on all 4 boards of education, and I'm repeatedly impressed with the diligence and hard work of the members of those boards, with the humility that people have. People come to these boards not with fixed ideas of what we need to do and how we need to do it, but with open minds as to how to solve problems that face our children and face our Commonwealth. With the commitment that these boards bring to young people and to the Commonwealth. And finally, with their willingness to face up to difficult, complicated challenges. Recognizing that the work we do together is the most important work of our time. It's the work of our future in terms of our economy and democracy. But it's hard work, and it's complicated work, and it's work about which reasonable people disagree all the time. So I first want to just acknowledge those who are day to day working with us at the level of the Commonwealth to make these good things happen. The newest member of our leadership family has already been recognized, but I'm so thrilled to have him at the helm of our state university, the University of Massachusetts, President Bob Corrett, and we just celebrated his inauguration here last week, so we're thrilled to have him with us. Board Chair Jim Karam couldn't be with us today, but we appreciate so much his leadership. Richard Freeland, our Commissioner of Higher Education, and Charlie Desmond, the chair of that board, are with us. Mitchell Chester and Maura, the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education, and Maura Banta, the chair of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, are with us. And Commissioner Sherry Killens and J.D. Chesloff, chair of that board, are with us today. So I would ask all those who I just recognized, as well as all the members of those boards who are with us, to please stand. And finally, I just want to acknowledge our legislative partners, without whom we don't get anything done in terms of changing policy and making things happen and supporting the good work that all of you are doing in the field. I want to acknowledge all the chairs with whom we work, a couple of whom are here today. Chair Alish Pice, Chair Sonia Chang Diaz, erstwhile supporters like Representative Holmes and Wolf are also with us today. Chair Moore and Chair Sanacondra I don't think could join us today, but their work is much appreciated in advancing the cause of public education and making Massachusetts the #1 education state in the country. We have a lot of work in common, these four boards, as we gather here today, and we're going to do more work after the governor's speech and charge to us. There are topics like the preparation and support and development of highly effective teaching in our schools, reading proficiency, and the topic of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which suffuses our schools and our economy and is such an important part of our future. We are blessed in Massachusetts with leadership at the executive level that sees, recognizes, and values the premier importance of education as the key to our future as a Commonwealth. And nowhere is this more evident than in the STEM field, where we have the leadership of the Lieutenant Governor heading the Governor's STEM Council. The Lieutenant Governor has been a champion on STEM topics in the area of vocational education, and furthermore in education generally. As a former mayor, as a former member of the school committee, as a parent of children in urban public schools, he is somebody who understands from the grassroots level to the very top circles of policy what needs to happen if we're going to value and prioritize and cherish public education as John Adams challenged us to do in our state's constitution. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our Lieutenant Governor, Timothy Murray.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Secretary Revel, for the work that you do each and every day in facilitating the collaboration and coordination that is so important. And I think it's important at a moment like this, before the governor comes up, just to acknowledge one point that Paul mentioned, which a lot of people in this room played a role in facilitating. But a number of governors had attempted to do something back during our first term that we were able to do with the legislature and many people in this room, was to bring together a structure that allowed for an unprecedented level of coordination and collaboration with a Secretary of Education and commissioners, so that there is that continuity and flow and communication that's so critical. And I know a number of governors had attempted to do that over the years, but with people in this room, the hard work of the legislature, the structure has been put in place, and I think with positive results. And Secretary Revel, thank you for your leadership. We are lucky to have a governor who really understands and appreciates the importance of public education. From the Historic Achievement Gap Act that was signed almost 2 years ago, to our success with the Race to the Top application, the creation of innovation schools, there is no doubt that Governor Patrick, not just in word but in deed, is the education governor. All of us in this room have partnered with him in that effort, and as Paul mentioned, I am pleased to be able to chair the STEM STEM Council, which the governor put into place via an executive order back in 2009, where we are trying to raise the level and standard and results in and around science, technology, engineering, and math, and preparing our students for the jobs of the future. Careers in STEM fields pay well, about 26% more on average, and in many cases have been more secure. Jobs in STEM fields have been more secure during this Great Recession, and as we visit companies on a regular basis, even in the last 2 or 3 years, many of them have vacancies in where they're STEM jobs, and jobs with STEM skills, but we have a skills gap. And so the focus of the STEM Council is to fill that gap, to keep those jobs here and growing. And our partners in that effort have been the members of the STEM Council. Our work is coordinated on a day-to-day basis by Associate Commissioner and Executive Director of the STEM program, David Cedrone, and I would ask if David could stand up and members of the STEM Council stand up as well and be recognized. I also want to thank Dave Ferreira for being here from the Mass Association of Vocational School Administrators. When you added up nearly 60 vocational technical programs across the Commonwealth, really important for our regional economic development strategy and lots of success a lot of success at our Voc Tech schools that we can learn and build upon. By partnering with educational institutions across levels, including the UMass, our private and nonprofit sectors and other stakeholders, we can continue to promote STEM education for all students across the state. And we know that when we excite students about careers in STEM-related fields, they will help us in terms of securing our economic future, both individually and collectively as a Commonwealth. And much of that focus, as well, is being coordinated with our Gateway Cities agenda. Many of these cities, for too long, have been ignored, have not been really had the level of coordination and attention by the state and others, and we are working to do that because we understand that these gateway cities drive their regional economies. They are oftentimes educational hubs, healthcare delivery hubs, cultural and arts and cultural hubs, and so to the extent that we can build up their success in and around public education, we know we strengthen the regional economies there across the state as well. So today, our governor, our education governor, will tell us about his vision. And we look forward to that and our continued work together in making sure that the Commonwealth continues to lead not only the country, but the nation. I'll turn it back over to Secretary Revel.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. We've been on a long journey in this state for a long time, but let's mark it from 1993 when we had the audacity to set a goal of all children achieving at proficiency, and all means all. Last time we gathered in this peninsula, or on this peninsula at the Kennedy Library, at the behest of the governor, it was for him to announce his readiness project, which was an ambitious effort of citizen engagement. Many of you in this room were involved. Stemming from early childhood all the way through higher education, involving more than 200 people, 13 or 14 subcommittees, with a whole set of strategies designed to close the achievement gap. We became and were, through the years, a national model. Everybody looking at us, looking at what we proposed to do. No sooner had we announced it than we were hit by the tsunami of the current, still lingering economic crisis. And it impaired our ability to do many of the things that we had hoped to set out to do. But nonetheless, we persisted. The governor stood tall. The governor said, we may be a national model, we may have the top scores in the country, but doing well isn't good enough. And as long as there are kids caught in the achievement gap, we have to persist. And so we piled up a number of things that we have accomplished during this time. We talk about the Achievement Gap Act of 2010, but we could be talking about our QRIS system in early childhood, or our Vision project in higher education. At the same time, we recognize much more needs to be done. Much more needs to be done. The statistics tell us that when we look at the achievement gaps each time our scores come out. And that's why we're here today, to talk about our future work and to have the governor share with us his vision for a broader, bolder, transformed 21st century education system that meets each of our children where he or she is and gives them what they need in order to be successful. We are fortunate to have an education governor that the Lieutenant Governor just described, who knows the transformative power of education in his own personal life, and wants for all children what those of us who've had privilege or just plain good luck have enjoyed ourselves. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you my boss, the nation's premier education governor, Governor Deval Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Paul, thank you very much for the generous introduction and your exceptional service as Secretary of Education. To you, to the Lieutenant Governor, who is just the best partner you could hope to have, to Chancellor Motley for his always warm welcome here to the University of Boston, University of Massachusetts Boston campus. We thank you so much. To all of the presidents and board chairs and trustees and commissioners and educational leaders, to all of the members of the legislature who are here, and indeed to all of the members of our broader community who have partnered with us and with each other in the quest to deliver excellent education to our young people across the Commonwealth. Thank you all for being here. I stand here this morning the incredibly proud governor of the nation's leading education state, and I want to thank each and every one of you for that. No other state in America comes close to the bragging rights we have in public education here in Massachusetts. We achieve this enviable status because of our hardworking students and teachers, our dedicated parents, school leaders, and policymakers at all levels of our system, from school committees to various boards of education gathered here today for the first time, to our partners in the legislature. Humbly and from the heart, I want to thank each of you for all that you have done to make our Commonwealth the education state. Our record of achievement is second to none and a model for the whole country, and that is not by accident. Not by accident. In Cambridge, there is a group of people working on a project called Opportunity Nation. Concerned about the stagnation of mobility in our country today, they originally started with the goal of uniting all of the anti-poverty organizations in the country. But they quickly realized that if they wanted to focus on solutions, they had to focus on opportunity. They realized, in other words, that the antidote to poverty is opportunity. I know this from my own life. It was opportunity that lifted me and my family out of poverty. Opportunity is the great American hope, the idea that in this country, in our lives, and in our time, we will have a fair chance to do a little better than our parents, to leave things a little better for our children, to realize our full potential. But chance, to paraphrase Louis Pasteur, favors the well-prepared. Today, more than ever, opportunity depends on education. If opportunity is our nation's hallmark, we have a patriotic, indeed a moral obligation to provide a superlative education to every child. In Massachusetts today, we have a lot of which to be proud. We lead the nation in student performance. Last week, for the fourth time in a row, Massachusetts students finished first in the National Assessment of Education Progress, the so-called Nation's Report Card. Our students are among the top 3 in the world on international math assessments and tied for first in science on the International Science and Math Assessment, TIMSS. We lead the nation in standards and accountability. From the Education Reform Act of 1993 to our recent leadership on and adoption of the Common Core standards, we have declared our intention to educate all students to high standards. We have brought that commitment to early education and care with the recent launch of the Quality Rating and Improvement System, a framework of high standards to elevate the quality of care for our pre-K children. Today, our system of standards and accountability is stronger than ever, and we are firmly committed to maintaining our leadership and advantages in this area. In higher education, we have undertaken the Vision Project, setting a course for national leadership in post-secondary education by putting college and career success in sharp focus and tracking our results. In Massachusetts, where brainpower is our calling card, we need the best educated citizenry and workforce in the nation, and it is the job of public higher education, every campus working together to achieve that result. Passage of the Achievement Gap Act of 2010 was another national milestone. It was a bold mid-course correction. We studied the data and owned up to the fact that we are not educating all students to proficiency. That bill gave us a number of policy and practical tools to reach the young people whom, despite our overall successes, we have been leaving behind. Too often, those students are poor, or they are black or brown, or they are disabled and have special needs, or they speak English as a second language. The Achievement Gap Act is a values statement. It proclaims the simple truth that the kids we are leaving behind are our kids too. They're ours, every one of them, and that we will not accept subpar results for any of our children. Thanks to our partners in the legislature and to many of you in this room, and informed by what we learned from the countless teachers and principals and students across the state, we passed a bill that moved beyond the stale debate of district schools versus charter schools, management versus unions. We decided to reaffirm the notion that education is first and foremost about the students in the classroom, and it's working. There are 18 innovation schools open in Massachusetts and another 8 in the planning process to open next year. These in-district laboratories are using a whole range of creative, inventive strategies, increasing student achievement and reducing achievement gaps within the district structure. You only have to look at the Springfield Renaissance Innovation School or the 5 new innovation schools in Worcester, which has more of these experiments underway than any other city in the Commonwealth, to see the marvelous results. The turnaround schools, what used to be our lowest performing, non-improving schools, are in fact turning around through the most aggressive interventions. This year, 2/3 of our turnaround schools made combined gains of 5 percentage points or higher in proficiency in English and math on the MCAS. One school I visited, the Orchard Gardens K-8 pilot school, is using virtually every tool available in the Act and has seen a significant improvement in student achievement and MCAS scores in the first year, demonstrating dramatic gains in 8th grade English, 5th grade English and math, and 3rd grade math. The pride that that whole school community is experiencing today is a palpable thing. We also lifted the cap on charter schools, encouraging the highest performing charters to grow in regions of the state that serve our neediest students. No creaming or skimming or whatever. Just show us what the autonomies for which charters are famous can produce when you are willing to take all comers, like the district schools do, and then share those lessons with the rest of the system. That's all, and it's happening. Match Community Day is an example of the type of new era charter brought online by the Achievement Gap Act, using innovative ways to target English language learners. In a school where 85% of students speak another language other than English at home, students are tutored by an elite group of recent college graduates called Match Corps, with a focus on reaching students at a young age and growing partnerships with other charter schools. Match Community Day is a grand experiment from which we can all learn. So as our students learn, so do we. Bolstered by the state's successful Race to the Top application, and here again we lead, We were the highest scoring state in the country. There is more innovation happening in Massachusetts classrooms than ever before in our history. Why? Because we are about enabling teachers to reach every one of their students, because each and every one of their students is ours, part of our community, part of our Commonwealth-wide family. This is all good news. And I want again to thank the teachers and principals and parents and policymakers and civic and business leaders who have brought their creativity and hard-headedness to bear on getting these results. But there is more we can do and more we must do. As important as these early steps have been, and as confident as I am that we will build on them in the coming years, the Achievement Gap Act in word and spirit beckons us forward and faster. This for me is personal. I've told all of you before about growing up on the south side of Chicago. Everything was broken. Broken sidewalks, broken playgrounds, broken lives. The schools were overcrowded, under-resourced, sometimes violent. And yes, thanks to great teachers and other adults and a scholarship to Milton Academy in 1970, I got my break. I've told all of you all of that before. But what I rarely talk about, and what you also know, is that there were lots and lots of other kids on the south side of Chicago just like me. Just as wide-eyed and hopeful, just as eager to learn, just as curious and ambitious, who did not get their break. And you know that still today, for every one of me, there are thousands of others just like me in Massachusetts neighborhoods hoping for a break, entitled to one, in fact. I want to repeat, they are ours too. Ours. I have made closing the achievement gap a priority for my second term. Today, I am asking you to make it a priority of yours as well. Whether you're on the board of Early Ed and Care or the board of the University of Massachusetts, whether you are a teacher or a principal or a parent, whether you agree with everything our administration tries to do or not, the achievement gap must be closed. Opportunity must have meaning in America. And that means we need to deal with some hard truths. In spite of all of our successes, many students are not enjoying the benefits of a high-quality education in our Commonwealth right now. There is still an inescapable correlation between socioeconomic status and education achievement, between your childhood's zip code and your future achievement. And hardest of all, some of what we have done in the past isn't working well enough and won't work at all in the future. 18 years of experience and data tell us that our current system, enviable as it may be, due to all of the good work done by all of you and others, is still not broad enough or strong enough successfully to educate children stuck in these gaps. At our current pace, we won't close the achievement gap until the start of the next century. Today, we need to complement the tools and strategies of the Achievement Gap Act with additional measures to accelerate our efforts to reach all students. And we must have a sense of urgency about it. A third grader doesn't get to sit out the third grade while the recession lasts, or while we perfect consensus on all the things that have to be made just right in the education system. Her chance is right now, and we need to step up. We know what the problem is, and we know where the problem is. The problem is poverty. It's not unions, people. We are leading the nation in student achievement in one of the most highly unionized environments in American education. It's not money. In K-12, we are spending at record levels and have sustained that spending thanks to the legislature and the Obama administration through the worst economy in living memory. It's poverty. A recent comparison of the 2009 graduating classes of 10 affluent suburban districts versus 10 urban school districts makes it just as plain as day. On-time graduation rates were 97% in the suburbs, 59% in the cities. 97% of suburban kids went on to enroll in four-year colleges, 49% of city kids. According to a separate survey, fewer than 10% of young men of color in Boston are graduating from four-year colleges. I'm not saying that we don't need more flexibility in the classroom and more money. I get that. I'm saying when it comes to patterns of educational achievement, nothing is as significant as poverty. And if the problem is poverty, where do we find it? The answer, as you all know, is in our gateway cities. Our 24 gateway cities are home to much of our immigrant population, most of our low-income students, and English language learners, as well as families for whom navigating the educational system through college is unfamiliar. The challenges faced by students, their families, and their educators in the gateway cities are monumental. We cannot be truly successful as a state in closing achievement gaps unless we succeed in Brockton and Fall River and Lawrence and Holyoke and Fitchburg and Pittsfield. We have to focus on achievement gaps where they are most persistent, and that is in our gateway cities. So the problem is poverty, and it lies in gateway cities. Here are 4 simple things I want you to do right now. First, every child must read well by the 3rd grade. 3/4 of children who struggle with reading by 3rd grade will continue to struggle academically, greatly reducing their chances of graduating high school, going to college, or successfully participating in our high-skill economy. I want you to go to work now on developing the best ways to address this early in a child's academic career, in children entering kindergarten. In my next budget, I will propose a pilot program for kindergarten literacy readiness. Second, all children need a healthy start. And if they can't get it at home, we have to find a way to provide it for them. Poverty begets a whole host of out-of-school challenges that affect the readiness of a child to learn in the classroom. Mental health issues, family violence, housing instability, and inadequate nutrition all are real and present obstacles to student attendance, attentiveness, and success. Teachers know it, and they, along with school nurses, do their very best to help. But they can't be expected single-handedly to solve such complex problems in the lives of their students. So we propose establishing student support councils and deploying student support counselors to predominantly low-income schools, possibly even in early education centers and even in colleges. These councils will consist of local human and social service providers, focusing their efforts on connecting with students and families through the schools to help meet their needs outside of school. Third, the student-first education must trump the system of adult convenience. A one-size-fits-all batch processing model never was intended to work for all children. And it does not meet our goal of proficiency for all, and it falls far short of what will be necessary to maintain our top economic advantage, which is a highly educated workforce. The most profound examples are dropouts. No statistical achievement gap is as great as the singular one that separates those children in school from those who have dropped out. So as another example, I look at the continuing achievement gaps afflicting our students who are English language learners. We are more and more a majority-minority Commonwealth, and recent immigrants, the overwhelming number of whom are fully documented, by the way, make up more and more of our student population, especially in poorer communities. I welcome the many rich contributions that these new students and their families bring to the Commonwealth, and I thank the schools and communities who show them the same sense of welcome I was shown when I first came to the Commonwealth 40 years ago. But it is a special challenge to learn the lessons in school in an unfamiliar language. and we need to do a better job at that. We are trying to teach these students English while keeping them up to speed in their academic subjects, all in the same amount of time that other students need for core subjects alone. It doesn't make any sense. Therefore, I will propose the establishment of summer English learning camps, specifically designed to give English language learners more time in an active, engaged camp atmosphere so that they can become fluent in English. And finally, we must prepare students for lifelong success. Success means the capacity to land and hold a 21st century job in a high-skills, high-knowledge economy like ours. It means being an informed citizen and leader in our democracy. It means being prepared to be the head of a family with all the characteristics we associate with family leadership. And it means being a lifelong learner, capable of solving problems that today's educators can't even imagine. We are working hard to prepare our students to be admitted to college and to complete college once there, and our efforts in this area are intensifying. But we do not do enough to prepare students for whom college is not their best or preferred path. We need to prepare our young people to think about and succeed in middle skill careers too, careers just as valuable to them and their families and just as important to our economic future. We are stepping up our support of vocational and technical schools and looking at better ways to better align the community colleges to meet the regional workforce needs of area businesses. I also propose that we pilot career academies to offer high school students the opportunity for early career exploration, more applied and experiential learning, and similar educational experiences that motivate students who do not see themselves as college-bound. A 21st century education system will require us to work in unprecedented ways to meet all the educational and developmental needs of our students to prepare them for success in a rapidly changing world. This system will need to serve society as well as the individual. It will need to prepare our students for meaningful work, active citizenship, family leadership, and lifelong learning. It will require reinventing our approaches to child development, utilizing time and space differently, drawing on the expertise of a wider variety of people who can serve as co-educators, and harnessing technology in ways that are unprecedented to meet students where they are and give them a tailored program of what they need in order to become successful. We need a renaissance of innovation in education, a period of intense experimentation and urgent quest for the design features of an education system as diverse and vital as our students are themselves. We, in government and policy, need to seed and incentivize new ways of working both within and outside of our mainstream system. We need to focus on results by nurturing innovative approaches. I know you are all asking how we will pay for these initiatives. I will ask the legislature's support in the budget I file in January. But just as we seek new approaches in the classrooms, we will need new ways to support our experiments. So I want you to develop an innovation fund, a private-public means by which we can approach businesses, individuals, unions, foundations, and others to leverage public money to invest in new experiments in the classroom, experiments that reach the children we are leaving behind. The Commonwealth Education Innovation Fund was a recommendation from the Readiness Project. Such a fund might offer incentives to school districts to encourage them to utilize social impact bonds, for example, to support solutions to the dropout crisis, or pre-K programs to ensure that children enter kindergarten with the momentum necessary to succeed, or our higher ed campuses to enhance their work with high-risk dropout populations or other achievement gap issues. Perhaps it could seed innovations that promote a more seamless education continuum from pre-K through higher ed. The point is to bring new resources of time and money and attention to this renaissance of innovation and reform in our schools, because we all have a stake in it. Today, I ask you to focus on these 4 initiatives. We won't close this achievement gap unless we work together across boards and disciplines, across ideology and background. I know you're going to spend some time this morning talking in smaller groups about some of these strategies. Don't end the conversation here. Keep it going. Challenge us with new ideas, engage us, and hold us accountable, as we will each other. But above all, act. Act. The time for conversation must be short. The time to move on to action is what is at hand. This matters for all of us, no matter where we live or in what capacity we serve. Not as a question of abstract policy, but as a question about what kind of country we want to live in. America is the only nation in human history not organized around a common religion or common language or even common culture. It's organized around a handful of civic ideas. Just imagine that. Civic ideas. And among them is the ideal of opportunity. It defines who we are. It shapes what we expect of ourselves and inspires others all over the world. It is central to the American dream. I walked around Occupy Boston one day, several Saturdays ago, and I heard a lot of anxiety about the future of the American dream. And it might surprise you to know that at a town hall meeting that I did at Goldman Sachs a couple of weeks after that, I heard much the same sentiment. In a sense, the Tea Party and the Occupy movements and a lot of the rest of us in between are united by our common anxiety. People are asking themselves, for their own sake and their children's, if the American dream itself is at risk. The people in this room, all of us, are in a position to do something about that. We have the power we need to make a change. We have the chance here to provide an opportunity to every child in Massachusetts, a chance to show them that in the face of an uncertain future, we were willing to act and to lead, to preserve for them what our parents and grandparents gave to us. I want history to record that we, in our time, stood up for the American dream and made it real in Massachusetts for a generation to come. Let's get to work. I'm looking forward to doing that work with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Governor, so much for your vision, for the passion that you bring to it, and for prioritizing education in everything that you do. We appreciate it, and we accept the charge that you have given us today. The professor in me wants to distill a little bit what we just heard, or what the principles are behind it, before we send you out to begin work on this. What I heard was a governor challenging us to envision a broader, bolder system of education, a system more capable of meeting each of our students where he or she is and giving them what they need in order to be successful. He's challenged us to envision a 21st century system of education that looks and feels and acts a lot differently than the one we inherited from the early 20th century. 5 principles I detect in what the governor said about what we ought to be thinking about today. 1, a reinvigorated, renewed commitment to high standards and rigorous accountability. And you can see that in the commitment to closing those achievement gaps by 3rd grade reading. A further commitment to broad student supports. We opened the Boston Globe this morning and see a headline about poverty and the pervasive impact and growing impact on students in our capital city, and just magnify that by another factor all across the Commonwealth to our gateway cities where we're going to focus now. It is about poverty in some sense, and that's not an excuse. It's not a statement that SES is destiny. It means we can't ignore the data that show us that correlation, so we need to be thinking about student and family supports from early childhood all the way through higher education. He challenged us to think about individualization or differentiation of meeting students' needs, giving students the quantity and quality of instruction they need in order to meet the standard. That's probably the most radical assumption behind standards-based school reform, is seat time doesn't matter. One size fits all doesn't matter. Going through these gates and checks that we set up in a highly institutionalized system doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have mastery over the skills and knowledge that you're going to need in order to be successful? So if it takes more time to learn the English language in addition to keep pace in your subjects, we're going to find a way to give you more time. If you've dropped out of school and are out in the street, who's got a bigger achievement gap than you have? We're going to figure out a way to get you back in school and to prevent those who might drop out from dropping out in the first place. So we're going to have to build a system that recognizes that our kids come in with different assets and different challenges, and we've got to design a system to meet them and give them what they need in order to be prepared for success. He also talked about college and career readiness, not just getting people into college, but with the help of the Vision Project and other work that we're doing, making sure that they persist through college. But at the same time, taking a more open view of career education and starting earlier, as so many of our industrialized competitors around the world do. Giving our young people a clearer consciousness of how they might put their knowledge and skill to work, which in turn gives them a sense of motivation and connection and hope for the future. And so we need to figure out how to go about suffusing our education with a connection to careers and a connection to the real world. And finally, he's challenged us to be innovative, that we're in the business of inventing a different kind of system than the batch processing, mass production, low-skill, low-knowledge system that was invented in the early 20th century. It's a pre-K through higher education system. It's a system that takes into account not just academics, but child development as a whole. And we're going to have to be innovative in how we do that. And that's why he set aside a fund, or challenged us to set aside a fund in order to do that. So in the end, we have what I've called a felicitous coincidence between what we need to do morally, what civil rights leaders have always told us is our obligation to the next generation, to provide an opportunity, underline opportunity in the governor's words, for every child to achieve their maximum potential. And that happens to be not only morally what we should do, but in our economic self-interest to do that. If we want to continue to enjoy the prosperity that we've enjoyed as a Commonwealth, that we have enjoyed as a nation, if we want to continue to live in a democracy, we must do this work, which is why it makes it the most important work in our society to do, and it's our job together as a partnership to get it done. So the governor's told us to act, and act we must. So today is a first step. We've accomplished a lot on these goals and principles already. And I'm not going to bore you with a litany of that. But we have many tasks yet to do. He's pinpointed several for us. There are others that we need to work on.